Hello and welcome back to Downtime Activities. Matthew here, going over 10 mundane items from 5th edition Dungeons & Dragons that I think are super cool and super useful. I'm going to go over what they do kind of mechanically, as well as some interesting, creative, and practical ways they can be used in your game. So let's take a look. Alright, let's check out 10 amazing mundane items and what I think are some of the best ways to use them. This list is not necessarily in order. I will kind of go from 10 to 1 in a way that kind of makes sense for how useful they are. You can make an argument that any of these are more useful than any of the others. These are just overall 10 I really like. Starting with number 10, we're going to talk about wagons. This also covers carriages, carts, chariots, sleds, etc. Transportation like a wagon. Now these range from about 15 to 250 gold pieces depending on what you're going for, but we'll use a wagon for this example, which is 35 gold pieces. Now the way that wagons work with how much you can carry is dependent on what's pulling them. For this example, we'll talk about a draft horse, which is 50 gold pieces. A draft horse has a carrying capacity of 270 pounds. When pulling the vehicle, you multiply this carrying capacity times 5 to get how much you can carry on the wagon. This will equal 1,350. If you take away 400 pounds for the weight of the wagon, that leaves 950 pounds that you can carry. And this is only with one draft horse. You spend another 50 gold pieces for a second draft horse to pull your wagon, you're looking at an additional 1,350 pounds. This should be more than enough to carry everything you need. And this is, surprisingly, very, very useful. You can carry all the junk that you want/need for adventuring, including a lot of the items you'll find on this list, as well as all the loot that you get. This also gives you the ability to let some characters take rests, while others continue to travel from location to location. Warlock needs a short rest to get their spell slots back. They can take a nap quickly in the back of the wagon while the fighter drives it. Number 9, it's a bit of a meme, but it does have a lot of practical uses, and that is the 10-foot pole. I'm going to cheat here a little bit because the real best way to do this is with the Pole of Collapsing, a common magic item, not technically mundane, but might as well be, which allows your 10-foot pole to collapse down to 1 foot for ease of carrying it around. That being said, if you can't use that, your DM doesn't have common magic items or whatever, 10-foot pole is still super useful and super cheap, coming in at only 5 copper pieces. This is a classic D&D item, and there's a reason for that. It has a ton of uses. You can check for traps with it, vault over obstacles, use it to wedge doors shut, or slow down the slowly descending roof traps that DMs love to put in their games. Number 8 is going to be oil. At 1 silver piece per flask, it's pretty easy to have a lot of this stuff on hand, and it can be very, very useful. It can be used to create and fuel light sources. You can coat the floor in it to make the floor slippery, and it can also do some extra damaging effects. When splashed on a creature, the next time they take fire damage, it'll deal an additional 5 damage to them. You can also splash it on an area, and then light that area on fire to deal 5 fire damage to any creature that enters it for the next 2 rounds. It's also just useful as a lubricant to oil hinges and make them easier or quieter to open. Very useful for the rogue in your party. Number 7, something pretty basic but super useful, are empty vials. These cost 1 gold piece each, but are inevitably going to be something that your character is going to need in the course of normal adventuring. They can be used to store liquids for later use and identification. And that means poisons or magical water from strange, mysterious wells, the blood, venom, or other fluids from slain monsters that can be used for alchemy, or people blood, if you're creepy like that, I guess. Number 6 is the portable ram or crowbar. These serve pretty similar functions. Portable ram costs 4 gold pieces, and a crowbar costs 2 gold pieces. Who needs a rogue? That's what I say. You don't need rogues to get through doors. All you need is one of these 2 bad boys. Portable ram will give you a +4 bonus to break down a door, and if you get someone else to help out, it'll be that +4 plus advantage to break that door down. Crowbar will just give advantage. Number 5, chain and lock. These two go hand in hand so nicely together. A chain costs 5 gold pieces for 10 foot, and a lock is 10 gold pieces. Chain is really hard to break. In the game you have to pass a DC 20 strength check to break, and even the most basic lock is a DC of 15 with Thieves' Tools to pick. And that's meaning that whoever was trying to pick it had lockpicks and the ability to use them to begin with. This can be used to chain up prisoners, chain shut certain doors, or pull items from a distance that may be too heavy to trust using rope for. Number 4 is going to be chalk. At 1 copper piece apiece, you can get a lot of chalk for very, very cheap. And it's surprisingly a very, very useful tool to have in your adventuring arsenal. You can use it to mark your path in a dungeon to help keep you from getting lost. You can leave a message behind if you are silently scouting ahead for your party. You can even crush it into a powder and then throw that in an area where you believe an invisible enemy is to outline them and give you a better chance to hit. And number 3, ball bearings / caltrops. Ball bearings, a bag of 1,000 costs only 1 gold piece, and you can get a bag of 20 caltrops for 1 gold piece as well. Come on, fellas, it's all ball bearings nowadays. Ball bearings cover a 10-foot square when rolled out, and they require a DC 10 dex save, or the creature trying to move across them will fall prone. This can be avoided by moving at half speed, but will still slow people down. Caltrops work similarly, but a little different. They cover a 5-foot square, and require a DC 15 dex save, or it stops the movement of the creature moving through it, and they take 1 damage. This then reduces their speed by 10 feet until they get that 1 hit point healed. They can also avoid having to make this check by moving half speed, but either way it really serves its purpose of slowing people down. These both are super useful as an obstacle to enemies at important entrances, or to throw behind you to cover your escape. There's also special usefulness specifically with ball bearings because for a single gold piece you get so many of them. You can use ball bearings to check a lot of things, and with 1,000 in a bag, that's a lot of opportunities to check those things. You can toss them out to try and trigger traps that may or may not be ahead of you in a dungeon. You can toss them down a hole to see how long it takes for it to hit the bottom and kind of roughly gauge how deep that hole is. And one of my personal favorites, if you're concerned for what lies beneath a body of water, you can toss a ball bearing from a good distance and disturb the surface to see what sort of tentacle monster starts to rise out of it. At number 2, kind of cheating, but I consider these mundane items hirelings. Hirelings are massively underused and so useful. For only 2 gold pieces per day per hireling, you can get skilled hirelings to do your bidding. And for unskilled help, it's 2 silver pieces per day. That's 5 schmucks to work for you for a single gold piece per day. The uses here are nearly endless. You can hire a group of those schmucks to get pretty much any large-scale task done efficiently for you. Are you looking for an individual? Hire a couple of guys and just have them wander around looking for someone with that likeness. Are you trying to patrol an area and call out trouble? You can hire a bunch of these guys and just let them know if they see anything to raise a ruckus. They can also be used to do things like create distractions, start bar fights, any of that kind of stuff that gives you the upper hand in an encounter. Skilled labor is a little different and should be used a little more selectively, but is also super useful. It can be used to assist in a lot of the more specific tasks like repairing gear, crafting gear, or even researching information if you hire a skilled library researcher to help pore over the books with the wizard. Number 1, one of the most useful items, and one that is criminally underused, at least in our games. It tends to be that item that you don't think about, and then something bad happens in the party, and you're like, oh god, we should have bought one of these, and then you go and buy one. But I'm saying you should have it from the start, at least one, and that's a healer's kit. At only 5 gold pieces, the healer's kit is a literal lifesaver. It's simple. Each one has 10 uses, and allows you to use one of those uses as an action to stabilize a player, with no check. I don't know how many of you have played a D&D game with a ton of your party members having proficiency in medicine and high wisdom scores, but I feel like it's pretty few and far between that you're going to have parties that are capable of stabilizing with medicine checks easily. This takes the need for that completely away. It gives you a cantrip that only certain classes can get as the Spare the Dying cantrip, and puts it around to anyone who wants it. Single action, person is stable at 0. This will save lives in your party and should be bought to where at least 2 or 3 people in the party have access to them. Trust me, it'll save a lot of heartache. So that's been 10 mundane items and their practical or creative uses that I think are must-haves in your D&D 5e game. If you guys have any other ways that these could be used, please throw that down in the comments, as well as throwing down your favorite mundane item and some cool and creative ways you've used it in your games. Please, if you enjoyed the video, give it a like or subscribe to the channel, as it means a lot to us. Now go forth, slay dragons, sling spells, roll dice, and enjoy your downtime activities.